Now welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Thor's Lightning Takes. And let's get right to the news.
Okay, first up, I want to talk about a rumor that's out there because it's been disputed already. And not everyone sees the updates that rumors aren't true. So I want to address this one right away.
All rumors are true. No Star Wars rumor has ever been false before.
Okay, so the rumor was out there yesterday that Natalie Portman is in negotiations to appear in Ahsoka Season 2.
Okay.
And that rumor
has
been confirmed as false, yeah. Because one of Christian Harloff's sources came to him and said, hey, you know that Anakin's coming back, Obi-Wan's in negotiations, he's coming back, young Ahsoka, she's coming back. We're also getting Natalie Portman going to reprise her role as
live-action
Padme
Clone Wars
Amidala.
series. I love it. Let's do it.
Well...
I'm kidding. We don't necessarily need to do that.
But that is an inaccurate statement. She is not in negotiations to come back, and honestly, it doesn't make a lot of sense for her to come back.
It really... In Ahsoka, no. I mean, they're buddies, for sure. Padme and Ahsoka get along. They're in a few episodes together doing stuff, but I don't really know that you need to bring her back.
Yeah, like I said, the rumor was Dave Filoni was pushing hard to bring her back into Star Wars.
Now, is that true or not, though?
That could be true.
Okay. I think it is.
But I don't feel like she fits in the project. Because I feel like bringing back Anakin, bringing back young Ahsoka, bringing back Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think this is setting up maybe another World Between Worlds type sequence, or more Force Ghosts.
Yeah, I mean, Obi-Wan could play the Force Ghost of Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen that yet, but why not?
Why not? We know he definitely...
He'd have to... Yeah, I mean, Force Ghost logic is you can look as young or as old as you want, I think, with Anakin. Or you can make the argument that Anakin looks young in Return of the Jedi because that's when Anakin was destroyed. And we don't know. Flexible rules, I think.
You can do what you want. That's how it goes.
Might depend on the viewer as well, how you look. I don't know.
But yeah, I think it's more of a World Between Worlds kind of sequence we're going to get, or a flashback, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to just randomly be like, look, Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman,
She wasn't a huge part of Ahsoka's Jedi training and upbringing. She was around now and again. And they were friends, and they were on friendly terms for sure.
Yeah, they've been together in a few episodes, but they don't really, have a strong bond where you're like, oh, God.
And if it is a Force Ghost World Between Worlds scene, well, Natalie Portman wouldn't be a Force Ghost, so...
She shouldn't be.
She shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And Anakin does what Anakin does.
Anakin brought her
found a way.
Back or something.
No, because that would mean you could bring anybody into the World Between Worlds.
Well,
but then again, if anyone can be a Jedi... so says Ahsoka's show.
I mean, the World Between Worlds, we have seen time travel. We have seen somebody brought out of one moment in time into a different place that had an impact on a different moment in time, which is, of course, Ahsoka being pulled out of the fight against Vader by Ezra. That is a character from one moment in time affecting a previous moment in time. Now, you could say it's closed the loop. You couldn't have changed it. It happens no matter what. But it's still time travel. I've had this argument with so many people. Because they're like, it's not time travel because it had to happen that way. Well, it's still, for Ezra, was him reaching into the past. And for Ahsoka, it is being pulled out by someone from the future.
True. Yes. Because they both know a different point of the timeline.
Yes, exactly. So, let's go crazy. Theory, Anakin's Force Ghost is tooling around the World Between Worlds because Force Ghost can probably do that. We've already seen him in there. Why not? So he's like, hey, that's that moment where I choked Padme to death. What if I didn't do that?
What if I decided not to choke my wife?
Well, you put it that way. I think he's in the right, to try to stop himself from doing that. Sure.
But then, the ripple effect, what is he changing, what's happening? Yeah. There could be all sorts of issues involving.
Yeah, there's a lot changes if Anakin doesn't think he kills Padme. Even though he kind of does and kind of doesn't. We don't really, it's a broken heart
and
thing.
If you want to say it's a closed loop that she didn't die, where's she been this whole time? Because that means somebody had her somewhere isolated from the universe if they all believe she's still dead. Could that mean Palpatine was correct?
Palpatine had her hidden on Tantus, or in Tantus, Mount Tantus, yeah.
Yeah.
Part of the experiments going on there.
That's not a good thing either.
Don't let Dave Filoni hear this. He would probably I got some ideas there. I could bring back all my characters.
Yeah, and then she'll team up with Ventress, and she'll be operating the path.
Yeah, even though Padme is obviously
Padme
not a Filoni
clearly
character.
Doesn't care about connecting with her children. No, clearly, knowing that she had twins and she named them.
She might think they're dead.
Yeah, Luke, the Jedi hero of the Republic, and Leia, she would never put that together. Never. Never. Yeah. Nor would they sense their mother being alive and around or something.
Yeah.
It never. Never.
Yeah. Yeah, Luke Skywalker, kind of on
He
the
doesn't.
nose,
He
isn't
doesn't.
it? Jedi who blew up the Death Star, who Darth
Leia
Vader is
Organa,
looking
who
for.
she was really close with Bail.
Yeah. Yeah.
She couldn't possibly think that maybe Bail would adopt her daughter.
Couldn't possibly.
No.
No, she would never put any of that together.
She's
Glad
not-
we solved that problem.
She's not
so
that
now
smart.
we can greenlight it. You can bring Padme back. There's no issues.
All right, let's move into the next talking point today. So, Skeleton Crew, because I've wanted to talk a little bit about some of this post stuff, and there's a lot of post interviews I'm going through and finding all the good stuff. But this one I thought was interesting. We knew from like IMBD that there was a casting for Nawood's Jedi Master. Well, that actress has now like taken to Instagram and been like, "Hey, it's me,
Hey, I'm
Yasmin.
Jode's mom."
I played it in a scene that got deleted."
Is she allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Is that legal?
They must have said it was okay or she wouldn't have done it. But she showed like pictures
she didn't
behind
know.
the scenes, some photos of herself in the costume, training on the set, wielding a prop lightsaber. But that scene, ultimately, they chose to not use it. It didn't make the final cut.
I wonder why.
She
Too
wrote,
much?
maybe? She did write that it was a very small role, but it was meaningful for her. She states that the crew even thanked her for portraying the first female Arab Jedi in Star Wars. But interestingly, the showrunners, John Watts and Christopher Ford, have talked about that flashback scene with Entertainment Weekly because they thought of including more of Jod's backstory. Eventually, they chose to, yes, like I said, eliminate that because they wanted to portray Jod more from the perspective of the children than by showing his life.
Okay.
What Ford said was, the challenge, though, was as fascinating as Jod is, we always wanted to keep it from the kids' perspective. The kids are like, I don't understand this guy. They've never been out in the galaxy and met someone as damaged as him, so I don't think we could have done a flashback in this season. Watts said, yeah, not in this season, but what's great about Star Wars is that you start talking about someone's backstory, and there's already a history and a lore that surrounds it, so you start getting excited about it. Oh, well, where do you place this person if it's X amount of years ago in the large galactic timeline? It's just such a rich world that you can have so many variations and varieties of characters and backstories, and it's like limitless potential. It's very fun. So they aren't closing the door on Jod's backstory completely, but I think they made the correct choice, keeping things from the perspective of the kids. Because you don't want to feel too much sympathy for Jod, because we saw how horrible he's being to the kids in present. Hearing his story was enough without adding just that extra, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think we needed it.
And like I said, they haven't closed the door on that entirely.
Well,
it is a possibility that if they do get greenlit for season 2, that they could go ahead and give you some more of Jod Nawood showing maybe his past, something from his perspective.
If season 2 ever happened, which I think is highly, highly unlikely,
We'll see. I mean, Skeleton Crew has earned a 91% from critics and an 81% from audience on Rotten Tomatoes, which is second only to Andor on Disney+. Because Andor got a 96 from critics and an 87 from audiences.
But the difference is bigger numbers. And Andor was already guaranteed to get a season 2 before season 1 ever came out. But
Andor also cost more money.
Oh, a lot more money.
A lot more money, yeah. And it was a slow roll to get numbers too.
It didn't do as bad as some people seem to think it did, but it didn't do fantastic.
Comparatively, Mandalorian falls behind Skeleton Crew by 1%. It's got a 90 from the critics. Ahsoka has an 85 with the critics. Book of Boba Fett had a 66.
Ahsoka did really well with critics. That surprises me.
Yeah.
I would have thought critics would have torn that thing apart.
So, right now, Andor's still the king, followed now by Skeleton Crew, and then Mando.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, actually. Maybe Mando
I think it's a little
Skeleton
amazing
Crew,
that well, I think before season 3 was probably higher.
Probably,
Season 3 probably dragged it down a bit. But I do find that rating interesting.
Yeah. But no, I think we will see a Jod backstory in a comic, in a novel, somewhere, if season 2 doesn't happen, which, again, I don't think is very likely.
I agree.
But nothing is impossible. If after the fact they see some numbers, if it just stays like a steady, people are watching it, people are continuing to talk positively about it, maybe. I don't know. I think the Acolyte crowd would throw a fit, but anyway, I think that is going to be all we got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below. Tell us what you think of any and all of today's news or ramblings about Padme's return, and let's talk some Star Wars. And so until next time, thanks for watching.